What's really unfair is when people impute people to minimum wage. In child support calculations, if somebody earns less than minimum wage, which is $13 an hour, 40 hours per week, 52 weeks per year, they are often, if not all of the time, imputed to minimum wage, which is around $2,200 a month. That is the bare minimum amount that a person would typically earn at minimum wage. I have never been involved in a court case before where the court, the Department of Revenue, or the Department of Administrative Law hearings in Tallahassee did not impute somebody to minimum wage if they sought to demonstrate that they earned less. The only circumstance I can imagine in which somebody would not have minimum wage imputation is if they are retired and receiving Social Security income at a fixed rate less than minimum wage, although I have not been involved in many octogenarian paternity cases, which means somebody who's a septuagenarian, which is in the 70s, octogenarian, which is in the 80s, or I guess pentagenarian in the 50s, or hexagenarian in the 60s. Do not ask me how I know those phrases in those terms. I have no idea, but I have learned them along the way at some point, apparently. Nevertheless, imputing minimum wage is a substantial guarantee that both parents will abide by Florida statutory law and be responsible for the maintenance, upbringing, needs, and necessities of that minor child. I believe that that is actually a good thing. It might seem unfair to a young person in their 20s who's dealing with the pressures of having a newborn and might not be able to work all of those hours if their parenting situation is unbalanced, though that may be through some fault of their own. I would encourage everybody to take a look at the law if you are confused about that. Deliberately being underemployed or misstating your income to make it appear as though you earn less than minimum wage is not a sustainable strategy. In fact, it may go against you. If you have, through some chicanery or some underhanded deal with your employer, sought to hide your true income, you may be in for a rude awakening. And alternatively, if you are a higher income earner and you've been offered a promotion for your employment and your career is really on the rise and taking off, and you deliberately tell your employer that you want to wait 3 months, 6 months, a year until your court case is finished, well, welcome to the real world, where that employer is likely to promote somebody else who is then going to view you as a problem because now you are their competitor, and they will very likely see to the termination of your employment. Hiding income from a court, whether it is DOA, DOR, the Family Circuit Court, is never going to be to your advantage. Minimum wage imputation is not about you, quite frankly. It is about having a minimum safeguard for your minor child to ensure that both parties' incomes are included in the calculations, to ensure that that minor child has all of the financial resources necessary. Though let's be honest, $300, $400, $500 a month is not the financial resources necessary anymore. In the age of inflation, it really could use some updating and be higher. Although that may seem like a scary thought for the people that are paying, can we just have an honest and frank and fair discussion that prices have gone up so much and expenses are so high that the old statutory guidelines for child support are in fact quite low? I've recently been involved in a case in which somebody threatened a hearing which might cost the parties hundreds or upwards of a couple $1,000s combined. I don't know how much the other side charges. I'm just spitballing here and guessing, because they're contesting minimum wage imputation, and I'm not even really sure they understand that such a thing exists. But nonetheless, they are contesting it and demanding that one of the people, the payor, pays the payee, the person receiving child support, an additional $50 to $100 a month because they claim that their client earns less than minimum wage. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody in their 20s and 30s who has worked, can work, and only has the minor child half of the time absolutely should be able to make at least minimum wage and arrange for their work hours of their career in such a manner as though that is the bare minimum that they should anticipate earning, And I would suggest that, folks, you should have loftier goals than earning less than minimum wage, because that is no way to live in minimum subsistence in today's society when inflation is sky high, the cost of goods and services is so high. Look for a better future for your minor child.